This week on Motor Week, Ken Gibson tries out the diesel version of the Seat Ibiza, Howard Stableford revisits Audi's classy A6, and Phil Sayre drives the Citroen Xsara HDi.
Clever idea to call a car Ibiza. Let's face it, most of us have got very nice memories of Ibiza. Lots of sunshine, lots of fun, lots of good times, the occasional hangover, but hey, nobody's perfect. And Seat have done rather well with the Ibiza model. It's their best-selling model. They've sold 2 million of them so far, and they are confident that this new model is going to sell them a whole lot more. There are actually 6,000 changes to it, although the changes visually are subtle ones with a new corporate nose on the front with a big new S and a nicely tightened up back, which has given the car a better balance. If the old Ibiza had a problem, it was its interior. It was badly let down by it. It looked like a poor man's Polo, which of course the Ibiza actually does share the same chassis as the Polo. Well, Seat have attacked it with a relish with the new model. It's got an all-new dashboard and it's pretty swish. I like the look of it. It's nicely angled for the driver here. It has the best thing you'd want from the Volkswagen connection, quality controls. They have an excellent feel to them. Everything is nicely placed. It's a bit grey, but you know, they could change that with some different colour trims, but it feels a class act. You will not get better quality in a Super Mini than in this Ibiza. It's just gone right up there with the leaders. So here we are in the Ibiza turbo diesel 1.9, 90 brake horsepower. This accounts for somewhere around 40% of Ibiza sales. They've become particularly popular because of their high performance for a Super Mini diesel and also their economy, which is excellent. But they've gone a stage further with this one because this is an amazingly refined little diesel. It's very quiet. Basically going along there, once you're running, you can hear the aircon more than you can actually hear this diesel engine. Living with the Ibiza is very good. I like the new model. There's a lot of space, although the dark plastics make it seem a little claustrophobic in here. It is in fact the roomiest Super Mini on the market. Seats are a little bit Germanic. By that, they're very hard, especially in the back, which is probably good for your posture, but I don't think it's the most comfortable that I've sat in. Rear seat space, which I tried yesterday for a considerable distance, is actually very good. Even with a tall driver, I had reasonable knee room, reasonable headroom. Handling is very good. Seats are sporty little Super Minis. They do have that little bit of fun factor about them. They're actually good fun to drive as opposed to a chore, which can be the case with some of the less impressive Super Minis. So how does the Ibiza perform? Is this a diesel to be contended with? Well, we've got a rather unusual place to put it through its paces. We've come to the Spanish coastal resort of Sitges, and we've got an amazingly famous place. We're going to the Velodromo, which was in fact the home of the Spanish Grand Prix in the 20s and 30s. It is, as you're about to find out, now very much in a state of disrepair, but amazingly the track is still remarkably complete. It's a banked track. What a wonderful sensation this is. Here we are on the banked track of Velodromo. Think of the magical stories this place could tell. It's like going round a concrete wall of death. in the 20s and the 30s with the basic cars then, it must have been frightening. The good news is that the Ibiza feels rock solid and very lively on here. It's got a good turn of performances for a small car. There again, 1.9 turbo it should do. Seat are banking on the Ibiza to be a big success for them. It's their key car. I think they've done a very good job. They've turned what was a reasonable car into a very competent performer. This car now is capable of contending with all the other super mini players out there. I think that they've got themselves a very useful package which will continue to sell a little bit like very good holiday tours to a certain destination. Bye.
The BMW 5 Series are quite rightly amongst the best executive cars on the road. They handle brilliantly, they're extremely comfortable, and the build quality is superb. And this version is no exception. Except that, curiously, this is called an Audi A6. But let me tell you something, this is no BMW wannabe. It's more of a BMW can do better than be. The exterior of this car is a perfectly pleasant dark blue. The interior of this car is a deeply unpleasant dark blue, and there's acres of it. And do you remember how in the late 1970s you used to have to save up to get that velour trim in your Ford Escort with the heater? Well, here it comes as standard. Have you got your toolkits ready? Let's have a look underneath the bonnet. You'll be surprised by this. Have a look at this. There is an engine that says, hands off, do not touch, move along now, there's nothing to see here. It's the 2.4 litre compact V6 with 5 valves per cylinder, 3 intake valves, 2 exhaust valves, which improves fuel efficiency, performance and emissions as well. But looking at the layout of this engine, it's clear that we're not supposed to worry our pretty little heads about it. The lines of the A6 are really sweeping and elegant, I think, again reminiscent of the BMW 5 Series. But you know, there's a price to pay with this sort of flattened off trim. There used to be a sort of a little gutter here to catch the rainwater. Now it's you that catches the rainwater whenever you open the door or the window. Neat though. If you were surprised by what was underneath the bonnet, wait till you see what's in the boot. It's enormous. If this was in Tokyo, they'd charge you 100 quid a night for a room that size. 551 litres as they have it these days. That's a lot of beer that you could buy in Calais and stuff in the back. And with the rear fold split seats, it actually increases to 840 litres of space. Very clever design at the back here. The rear suspension has been made more compact, which means that this is a flat shelf and quite low down, so it's easy to load things in and out. But don't worry, the spare wheel is full size and neatly tucked away back there. There's also space on the sides. For instance, in here you'll find the jack and also a luggage net stored away from there. And there's also extra space on the other side too. That is impressive. Not since the brutish Quattro of the 1980s has Audi produced anything remotely trendy, but now with the A8, the A6 and the extremely stylish TT, they are becoming perilously close. The TV ads would have you believe that the car park of the members-only golf club is full of Mercs and Beamers, so that perhaps you would like something else and the A6 is something you should consider. But the Mercs and Beamers are there for a very good reason. They're very good cars, so the A6 has a lot to live up to. All the models come with electric seat height adjustment, adjustable steering wheels with a sporty feel and a nice leather rim. This particular one is fitted with the 5-speed Tiptronic transmission, which means that on the left the gear shift is in automatic, flick it over to the right and you're in Tiptronic with a much more hands-on driving experience. This 2.4 will do 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds, which isn't bad for a car of this size, and has a top speed of around 138 miles an hour. Again, not bad. And in Tiptronic mode, it has tremendous torque from standstill, followed by higher ratios, which reduces the engine speed and cuts fuel consumption and road noise as well. Very clever. This is a car well designed and well suited for long distances. If you haven't been too depressed by the blues, you should finish your journey fairly relaxed. And out here in the countryside, well, it carves through the corners with great assurance, helped of course by this button, ASR, anti-skip regulation traction control to you and me. Automatic climate control comes as standard on all the models with separate driver and passenger controls, and this one has an extra very neat trick. It monitors the position of the sun. According to the intensity of the light and the angle of the sun's rays, the climate is adjusted accordingly so that the weather inside is always clement. They've really gone to town with the lighting in this car too. Vanity mirrors illuminate all the blemishes. The console lights are fed by fibre optic cables, no less. There are footwell lights, large reading lamps in the back. Oh, and if God's big reading lamp is glaring at you too much through the rear windscreen, no matter, watch what happens when you press this button. Despite being lighter than the previous version, the new body is 50% more rigid, and that helps with the driving dynamics and ride comfort. The bonnet, door frames, bumper mounts, driver's area frame module and side impact bars were all made from aluminium. It's the first time Audi has used this material for a large exterior part on a high volume production car. The reason why people buy BMWs and Mercs is because they're good cars, and the Audi A6 joins that particular golf club, non-member or not. On the road it's about £26,000 this particular model, but with great specifications coming as standard, you're getting a pretty good deal for your money. And you know something? I've even found a way round all that horrible dark blue velour in there. Why, simply step into the biggest room in the house. This way. You can avoid the noisy kids in the back as well. Drive on!
Motor Week news. Despite forecasts from motoring experts who say that new car prices will drop by up to 15%, manufacturers remain steadfast that this is not the case. Speculation centres around the Government Competition Commission report, which is expected to condemn the high prices in the UK. Used car dealers, however, are already cutting back on their stock in anticipation of the knock-on effect of dramatic cuts in forecourt prices. Ford, who also deny any likely cuts, have, however, contradicted themselves by offering to refund anyone buying a new car if prices do go down. In part 2, Phil Sayer and the Citroen Xsara HDi.
The joys of motoring journalism, getting hold of brand new cars, testing them and telling you all about them. Except, of course, this isn't a new car. This is the Citroen Xsara. You're right, you've seen thousands of them around, and they've been around a good few years. This is what's different. It's got a new engine. And it's a diesel. And if at that point you look heavenwards and groan and say, "Ah, come on, diesels, slow, noisy, inefficient, boring." Give me a few minutes of your time, and I might just convince you otherwise. The ride and handling of this car is very good indeed. It's not exceptional, but it's okay. And it is supremely comfortable. Behind the wheel, everything falls to hand easily, and really, really comfortable seats. Best I've sat in for a very long time. It's also remarkably quiet, especially at motorway speeds, partly because the engine's only doing less than 2,500 RPM at 70, but also because this new diesel engine really is very, very refined, probably the quietest diesel I've known, and Citroen say that this is actually quieter than the petrol engine Xsara models. The usual criticism of a diesel engine car like this is that although there is plenty of power and torque available, it all comes in a very narrow range of revs. Now, although that means that you get lots of grunt low down so you don't have to thrash the thing to get anywhere, it also means that sometimes, for example when you're overtaking, you kind of run out of engine and you're forced into making a gear change just when you really don't want to make one. This engine cures that problem. If any diesel drives like a petrol engine, let me assure you, this is the one. When you look at the figures on paper, they're not actually that exceptional. After all, 90 brake horsepower out of a 2-litre diesel ain't no great shakes. VW Audi managed 90 brake horsepower and indeed 110 brake horsepower out of an engine that's slightly smaller than this one. What makes this one so very different is that 90% of that torque, the pulling power if you like, is available right the way through the rev range. What that means in practice is that fourth gear will take you from 25 miles an hour to over 100 miles an hour. I think it's fair to say that that VW Audi 1.9 diesel engine, available in two forms remember, a 90 brake and 110 brake, has up until now been the benchmark. Me personally, I ran one of those vehicles. I had the Audi A4 and did 50,000 miles in it and really liked it, so I'm a diesel convert already, but I have to say to you, this is a better engine. Acceleration and top speed figures are almost identical to the Xsara 1.6i petrol engine. However, it returns 54.3 to the gallon as opposed to the petrol engine's 38.7. In continental Europe, 1 in every 4 passenger cars sold has got a diesel engine. Here in the UK, we're nowhere near that. Admittedly, diesel fuel has a price advantage on continental Europe that it doesn't have here. Nonetheless, that combination of economy and performance that you get with an engine like this may push that figure an awful lot higher, because it certainly deserves to be looked at if you're shopping for a vehicle in this class.
When one car manufacturer decides to take on another and go directly for the jugular and take on one of their models in particular, you know it's going to be serious business. And that's exactly what Lexus have done with this, their new small saloon, the IS200. They've aimed their sights squarely at BMW's new 3 Series. Now, of course, Lexus is the luxury brand of Toyota. Toyota are one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world, and they have very deep pockets. Even so, Lexus still need to come up with a good car, and I think they probably have. The styling of the IS200 is very smart on the inside, as you'll see in a moment, and in my opinion, on the outside it has shades of Ford's new edge design policy with some very sharp angular lines. It looks better than the 3 Series, dare I say it. Only the Alfa 156 is more gorgeous. Now, I think the IS200 is a car that will stand out in that crowded executive car park amongst the A4s, the 3 Series, the Mercedes and the Saabs. There are 3 models to choose from: the base S model, the SE and this sport version, which gets tinted rear windows should you be a celebrity or want lots of privacy, 17-inch alloy wheels and a rear boot spoiler. And it's also here at the rear where I think the IS200 looks most like its big brother, the GS300. But come and take a look at the smart interior. Inside, it's very smart with some really striking features like the dials designed to look like a chronograph watch. You want to reach out and grab it and rotate the bezel, which of course you can't. You also get drilled alloy pedals, alloy gear lever, leather and suede effect seating, and a very smart pop-up satellite navigation system. Almost everything is standard on all 3 models, including climate control, a quality audio system with CD. Only the satellite navigation is an extra that will cost you £2,100, which isn't bad. Now, of course, the IS200 is all about driving ability and fun, and it doesn't disappoint. Lexus knew that they had a tough job to come up with a car that could take on the new 3 Series. So firstly, it had to be rear-wheel drive. They've given it double wishbone suspension and wide wheels and low-profile tyres for optimum handling and braking. Lexus spent a long time developing and tuning the IS200 for European roads, testing across France, Britain, Belgium and Germany. They worked hard on an ideal weight distribution, putting heavy objects like the battery and fuel tank towards the centre and moving the engine back behind the front axle line. It's very interesting that Lexus decided that the engine for the IS200 would be a 2-litre straight 6 linked to either a 6-speed close ratio gearbox or a 4-speed automatic. It's the only engine option in the range at the moment. It develops 153 brake horsepower with 144 pounds-feet of torque and is a very, very sweet engine indeed. You need to push it hard though to get the best out of it. It revs very freely right the way round to the 6,500 RPM red line when the limiter kicks in. The market sector the IS200 is in is very, very competitive and dominated by the 3 Series BMW with nearly a 40% market share. Other rivals would be the Mercedes C-Class, Audi A4 and the Alfa 156. Interestingly, the IS200 does not have a direct rival at BMW in terms of the engine size. There's no 2-litre 3 Series. So will there be more powerful versions of the IS200? Well, don't be surprised. When though is anybody's guess. The IS200 uses a fly-by-wire throttle and it just seems to struggle a bit for me low down in the gears until you get it above 3,000 RPM, but then it seems to just run out of steam. After all, 153 brake horsepower is not that much for a car of this size. Oh, for an extra 30 or so brake horsepower, that would make this car truly great. 0 to 60 times not bad at about 9 seconds and a top speed of 137 miles per hour. It's certainly a very entertaining rear-wheel drive car. The ride is firm without being harsh. The steering has just the right amount of feedback to let you know what's going on. Head towards a corner and it goes exactly where you want it to do. The gear shift and clutch take a little bit of getting used to make really precise changes, but once you've mastered that, you're away. Now, in every car we drive, we look for the good points and, of course, the bad points. And to be honest, there aren't that many bad points with the new IS200. It's quiet, it's refined, you know it's going to be reliable. It's very competitively priced at between £21,000 and £23,000. Lexus aim to sell around 8,000 of these a year, which doesn't sound unrealistic. It's just a shame it doesn't have a bit more grunt and a bit more power. Who knows, in the future, it may well do. And if it did, it would make the Lexus IS200 into a really superb car.
Next week on Motor Week, we bring you exclusive detailed coverage of the Frankfurt Motor Show. All the new models, the launches, the characters. So tune in next week for those and more on Motor Week.